Hello, welcome to Future Anthropology. I'm David Driscoll, and my background is studying anthropology and now teaching about mindfulness and brain education.
I'm Steve Kin, and I'm representing the Eastern tradition of spirituality and Tao.
And I'm Arnel Curito, and I'm studying at the Institute of Brain Education in Earth Management.
So, we are back to talk about topics related to coevolution, humanity, and technology. And today we want to talk a little bit about how will new technologies affect our relationships, all kinds of relationships. So currently there's lots of issues that are being talked about with things like the birth rates and people's lifestyle and interacting with other human beings. And also in the future, there's a lot to be said about how technology is going to affect the way that we meet other people and reproduce. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I think something that's happening already is we're seeing AI companions. There is actually a business for having an AI companion, AI girlfriend, AI boyfriend, someone you can talk to that kind of resembles a human.
So is that like through the computer, just chatting with someone?
Chatting on your phone. But I think the next level of that is actually having like a human like robot. Yeah. I think already there are what's called like sex dolls, which resemble humans. They have all of the parts of a human. The only thing that's missing is putting in some kind of AI personality in it, or the ability to move even. And then you have almost like a human replica.
And there's plenty of movies and TV shows out there, sci-fi, that talks about kind of artificial companions in the future. So a lot of people these days, it seems like a lot of people might prefer that kind of interaction to the human social interaction. How come? Like, where's that coming from? What are the implications of this preference for non-human interaction?
Yeah, kind of something I think about is Korea and Japan right now have very sharp birth rate decline.
Yeah, I think a lot of countries.
Yeah, in Japan particularly, it's because of the pressure of what a relationship means. And a lot of young people are choosing not to be in relationships, to not have that added pressure. And it's creating a situation where now they're looking for alternative ways of having relationships, like a digital partner.
I know in terms of the birth rate, a lot of people, I've heard the financial cost of having a family discourages a lot of younger people. I've also heard that their focus on the career and their own personal advancement and everything that they want to do in life means that it's less attractive to spend the time and energy raising children or even, dealing with a partner. So is this a problem? Is this okay for humanity?
The alternative relationship, or digital relationship, or digital kind of companion, that's whether it's a problem or not, I think it depends on what's the reason behind the change. And when we feel connection with the other non-human things, it's not I don't think it's a new thing. For example, a lot of people have that level of relationship with their cars or tools.
A relationship with the car.
Yeah, and when they have some scratch on their cars, I saw people.
Poor baby.
Yeah, people feel more upset than having a scratch on their own body. And the tools, and then like your computer, which means we have capacity. Humanity have a capacity to extend our empathy or connection, not only with people, with things, beings. It doesn't need to be only animate things. We having that kind of relation with your dogs or cats, that's very normal. But even non-animate things. So yes, right. Yeah, phone, for example.
Well, that's everywhere in sci-fi, is in the future talking to their ship, talking to the computer, and it's a real relationship that a lot of science fiction explores and celebrates. And that's the question is, how come we are able to form relationships with other species, non-physical life forms, non-material, all these things.
Right. So I think what I'm trying to say is having a connection, having some form of relationship with non-human entities, non-human beings or things, that's not new. It has been there. But I think what really distinguishes what's happening now is when we have a relationship, when we include some level of intimacy, including the physical relationship or sexual relationship, that's totally different.
Yeah, different level.
Yeah, different level. So I think that's a new possibility now. It's not just having a feeling connect with the other things, but having that level of intimacy or physical relationship with non-human beings. That's a kind of new possibility.
That makes me think that, kind of, I don't know, gut feeling, first impression is that we are more comfortable and society allows more ways to find fulfillment and live your life. It's not just through, are you married? Do you have children? Is that your role in the community? Now you can be single. You can have an AI boyfriend or girlfriend, and you can still be a very successful, well-respected person in society. So it's just different options. It's not the only way to reach some level of respect. So in and of itself, that seems like great. More options, more freedom. But in a lot of places, it sounds like they're worried.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is population decline.
Mm.
And historically, people have looked at population decline as a signal of the culture or society collapsing. So Rome, a lot of the ancient, well-developed societies collapsed right after their population started to decline. So this kind of idea that, these objects are going to take away from people's interest to procreate and to continue the human species is kind of scary.
Yeah, because again, my impression, maybe population decline in one scenario could be good. Fewer people, less resource consumption, less waste, less pollution. But yeah, as the current system's set up, I know that in many places, less young people means less funding for the society. There's more burden because the older class needs support. So I understand there's a lot of concern about that. But as you said, what are the reasons for that population decline? And then also, how can we kind of balance that, compensate for that? Fewer young people, less soldiers defending the realm.
Yeah.
But maybe we don't live in that kind of era anymore.
Or we can have instead of the young soldiers, we can have robots.
That's a lot of people predict that.
Yeah.
They think that that's the next step.
So when I say what are the reasons, is it because we don't need it, or because we are afraid of our future, or because life is too stressful, or because we have lost the interest?
So if we're afraid of the future, and that's one of the reasons for declining birth rate, then that's accelerating the future that we're kind of afraid of in some sense. So what are the alternatives?
The alternative views. Yeah, for that, I think the birth rate basically it assumes there should be certain intimate level of relationship. So without that, currently, unless technology makes like cloning, it's mostly cloning, the having a birth in your life requires certain level of intimate relationship with someone, and then in order to look into this, or in order to find some alternative or answer to these challenges and issue, maybe I think we can ask, what do we get from relationship other than just reproduction? What is the real value of relationship? And what is or we have there are multiple benefits and values we seek, that we get from relationship, then what is most essential? What is most important? Not just for now, but for the long future. For example, feeling connected or avoiding loneliness. But what's really interesting is, as long as it's not about the thing or being or people that you have a relationship with, but your attitude toward that. As long as you have same level of affection, same level of care, then if you for example, if you do the brain scan, or what kind of change happen inside your brain when you have a connection with other people or beings or things, it's not about it. It's not about the things or beings or people. It depends on how you treat them.
Your own perspective.
Your own perspective. If you have the same level of connection and empathy and care, then your brain will have same response to even, let's say, some pets like cats and dogs, or then some robot cats and robot pets. And then when you have that level of care and that connection, your brain will respond the same way. So that's some. If that's the case, then actually whether it is if what we get from relationship is only avoiding loneliness or feeling connection, then maybe whether it is a people or beings or things or even robots, actually doesn't matter much. But is that really all that we need in relationship? That's the question that we need to ask. Why do we need that? Why we're looking for that?
These days, it seems like the stable ground is, some people take it to the extreme. Relationships, especially sexual relationship, is for procreation. Ultimately, that's why it exists. And some communities think that it should only be for that. No enjoyment at all. But in reality, human beings invest a lot of emotion. And as you say, they can feel the connection and empathy and all these things. So as we go forward, is procreation really necessary? Is that ability to reproduce really a necessary part of our relationships, especially as technology changes and the actual physical means of reproducing change? Then do relationships not exist anymore, or does a different form of relationship become primary?
Do you want children in your life?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No.
I haven't considered it right now, but maybe in the future I'd like the possibility of having kids.
So it looks like birth rate decrease is already happening here.
So
We are contributors to the
between three of us, we're below replacement rate.
Yeah, and then so far, yes. And then each person may, so it looks like Anel maybe considering possibility but not that interested.
How many consider anything? 2, 3?
Not over 2.
Not over 2. Okay. So we're going to be below replacement rate.
And then David, not interested. And I'm not considering for that. So it looks like it. And then maybe we can ask ourselves, why do we feel this way? Why do we? Because even just let's say one generation ago, if you have reached a certain age, then there is most common expectation from your families or from the community that you belong to. And but yeah, that has totally changed. But I think the reason that we have behind that kind of mindset is not very different from what people experience in their lives now. So for me personally, the reason is I want to assure the positive possibility for humanity before I bring any other souls into this world. I just want to make sure that the future, that our next generation will experience is better than the life that we experience now.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, before I bring before I invite any spirits, any other souls into this world, I want to make sure that we have a better future. So that's the
I'd agree.
Yeah.
I'd agree. In the wording I would use is something like, I want to utilize my energy and share with as many people as possible, whatever way could be helpful for growth and peace. And I know, I really believe that having a family requires so much energy and effort that it would make it hard to do a lot more than that. Judging by the families that I've seen, it's a lot of work to raise kids.
Yeah, my perspective is much more like nearsighted than yours, where it's just, I feel like I don't have the time or energy. Like you said, a family is a huge responsibility, having one more person to take care of. And I think something I noticed that when I was growing up, I lived kind of in a smaller town, and the expectation for people in that smaller town was more fast paced. Like by the time you're 18, you're already thinking about getting married and having a kid. And then as I moved more towards the city, that kind of mentality was totally flipped, where people were thinking about more working until maybe their late 30s or 40s before even thinking about getting married or having kids. And I think it's more of like a different focus, like a focus on like what do I want to accomplish with my life before I have to give this up and put more energy into like being responsible for a kid and a family.
And also, I mean, having kids is good, and we need our next generation. There are already many the children that who need care, but it doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be biologically my kids. That's the other point. So these the two things. There are a lot of kids who need care, and it doesn't need to be my case. That's one understanding, and the other one was wanting to make sure the better future for our next generation. So these are the main reason behind that for me.
I want to, if we can, I want to bring the conversation towards the role of reproduction, and also our genes, our genetics, because it made me think of something when we talk about genetics and the fact that we're sharing our genetic code and passing it on, sharing that information. It makes me think also of some research into the gut biome and the microorganisms, the bacteria of the gut, and how what the bacteria or the microflora and fauna there, what they want can influence my choices in what I eat. So if they're subsisting on sugar, then they will create the hormones that affect my brain to want to go eat some sweet treat. To the point where I'm now talking to you and asking you, do we have any dessert? And I'm talking to you and say, how about we go get some ice cream later? But actually, I am now working for those little organisms in my gut. Is that what I really want? Is that me? Like, where does this body kind of use me, and where do I use this body? And then thinking about, in that sense, relationships. A lot of times we talk about sex and the drive for sex, lust, basic reproduction. And our genes want to reproduce. But do I really want that? Is that really what I want?
Dude, that's actually, we don't need to mystify it. We don't need to beautify that. Biology is biology, and then we know that. I think it reminds me of the book, the one of the most famous book in the public, the biology books for the public, the Selfish Gene, written by Richard Dawkins. And the main idea of the book is what really drives evolution, the long evolutionary the process is not the individual, but actually the genes. Then individuals are just the vehicles, agent. But what really happens is the genes in programming. Because they are conscious, we cannot use the intention, but their program, their purpose is being served through the reproduction. And I think it has some insight in that. And if we apply that into what we are just talking about is we may use a really beautiful language to describe how we feel when we meet someone that someone we're attracted to. Then we may describe how we feel in a really beautiful way, or we may become even a poet. But no matter how we describe that, what really drives the feeling is a hormonal cocktail. We cannot deny that, and that what triggers on, what turn on the hormonal reaction, hormonal cocktail is the genes, the programming. Yeah. So which means actually, what really drives our behavior and the most romantic experience in our life. But what we are doing is actually serving the purpose, not my purpose, but the gene's purpose for evolution. And but one of the, it's not the generally accepted, but one idea that Richard Dawkins, he suggested in the same book was the concept of meme, which means actually genes are not the final purpose. Actually, what they do is what the kind of climax of the experience of human behavior is creating our ideas, information, the kindness of our thought, our mental, the acumen. And then our real purpose is sharing that information, the essence of information. So
What we've created with our minds, being able to reproduce that.
yes. So he used the term meme for that, and I think
Which is now a well-known term.
yeah, sure. And even that, I think the publication of the book was almost like 20, 30 years ago. At 20, 30 years ago, reproducing the meme, reproducing your key idea, your information wasn't that easy. That wasn't that efficient. Totally different. But now, how many Instagram images we see? How many the social media posts here? How easily you can reproduce your images and share it with other people. Then, if shared information, some image of me is so easy, so efficient, and we spread it so rapidly with so many people, then actually the higher purpose, sharing our information, is already well being served, much better than just by genes. Then so in the future, because of biological chain, we developed this biology through the millions of years evolutionary process. So we want it. I don't think it will change just overnight. But if that's our future, it's already happening. Then for the long run, for long-term future, maybe we can ask: do we still need this biological reproduction?
So are memes replacing genes?
Sure. Yeah.
When you hear about that, when you hear about memes, is that the classical kind of definition of memes, what you see today?
No.
What are memes? What are we using this power to reproduce our ideas for?
Yeah, memes are more jokes that we share online with our friends.
But in a sense,
Their idea is that same thing.
But now, for example, the digital me. So the brain mapping, creating our own personal replica in a digital space. It's already, the possibility is already there. Then it's totally different level. We can really reproduce our images and then share them with the billions of people in a single moment.
That's interesting. There's so much obsession with youth, kind of biological youth in our culture in terms of, when you watch sports, a lot of the athletes that you're watching, and not just watching them perform, but they're celebrities. They're now role models. But they're 19, 22, 28 years old maybe. By the time they're 30, they're considered old. My question is, should we really be care what this person thinks about anything else other than the game that they're playing? They haven't lived that long. They don't know much. But they're the people that we really idolize because they have those extreme qualities of youth. They're strong, they're fit, they're beautiful, all of that. So we're so obsessed with youth.
And a very important part of the youth is sexual attraction.
Right.
Yes. And then so when there's no reason for, let's say, spreading our images, spreading our thought, that's kind of find a purpose. It can be well served without using biological reproduction process. When that happens, then how is it really a good thing or bad thing? When I look into that, the way I see that is, in our current lifestyle, our intimate relationship includes the sex aspect in it, then is it really strengthen the relationship, or it makes the relationship much more difficult or fragile?
That's a huge issue that everyone faces probably at one time or another, but many people really falter with, is what happens when that hormonal cocktail is no longer being stimulated. A lot of people think
They lost something.
there's something wrong with the relationship because I don't feel the same kind of attraction that I did in the beginning.
Right.
But biologically, it would actually be perhaps unusual to feel the same level of physical attraction endlessly. That wouldn't serve biology.
So my bold suggestion for our current generation and our future generation is, what about liberating our relationship from sex?
Mm-hmm.
Then I think that technology, if we continue in this direction, if you use the technology well, then I think that it will affect that way. So we can expand our relationship. We can have a relationship not only with the people, but with the many different types of existence, the type of beings. But it doesn't to involve sex, not even for the intimate level. And so when I look into, and that's something that I'm experiencing as well, because I'm passing 60, so I can see the change of the hormonal cocktail in my bloodstream, and then when we, as you just mentioned, when we don't have it, we may feel that we lost something, or we may desperately try to achieve that.
Yeah, I see that all the time.
Right, they have a huge market for that. Huge market. People spend a lot of money for that. But when I see in my relationship with other people, or when I see the well-aging couples relationship, and I see some when I say well-aging means very mature, compassionate, wise,
Happy.
And when I look into that kind of intimate relationship, there's no sexual drive in the relationship, but there's a loyalty, trust, empathy, respect, these kind of things.
Sometimes a lot of humor. You enjoy it, like exploration.
Right. So when I see that, what I see in that kind of relationship isn't the really essence of relationship? Isn't it what we really look for in relationship? And we blinded by the strong drive for sexual drive. When we have that hormonal cocktail in our bloodstream, it blinds us to see the real value in relationship. But is it when we remove that from relationship, are we really losing something, or are we really attaining the true value of the relationship? So yeah, that's the kind of perspective that I wanted to propose.
It seems like a very extreme idea that you're proposing, that one day we'll evolve to the point where we're not attached to having romantic or intimate relationships. But I think we've already kind of discussed a possible future where we're going to see these things start to play out, where say you have a body that you move your consciousness to, and now in this new body you don't have the same physical desires as your human body. You don't have desire to sleep or eat or procreate. And I think what you're saying, it kind of opens up that possibility to see, what do we do with that desire for connection at that level when we don't have the physical, there's a limitation actually, really, of I need this person because I can procreate with them, and nobody else can feel that way about this person because I need to know that this is mine. Whereas if you move beyond that and you don't have that sort of attachment to these desires anymore, maybe that opens up the world to another web of relationships that can, I feel like, strengthen humanity.
Yeah. So I'm not suggesting, I'm not proposing sexless life. It's a very important part of, continue to be important part of a human life. But we don't say as long as we have a body, sure, yeah. But we don't need to tie the relationship with that. That's kind of the kind of openness, openness that I'm proposing. So as you just mentioned, if we remove that from our relationship, then if you focus on true value of relationship, like trust, respect, empathy, care, and those things, I think that's much easier to share. You, when it involves sex in it, you cannot share with many people.
You're playing with something that has millions of years of evolutionary programming to defend and compete. So even the most enlightened of us, if we're accessing that system and activating that part of our brain and memory, there's going to be a lot of desire and perhaps jealousy and attachment. We're playing with fire, basically.
Yeah, those kind of jealous and those it's mental, emotional. But if you look into that, then we see sex in there. So if you remove that, then I think the human relationship, it won't weaken human relationship. I believe it will strengthen human relationship. It's much easier to share, which means we can. It's not only to strengthen the relations between individuals. If you really develop that level of relationship, I think it will strengthen the whole community, even the whole humanity, the real connectivity in there. So that's the kind of the positive aspect of that chain.
It kind of makes me think of, there's this book called Sex at Dawn, and in that book they discuss like tribes of people who have more like open relationships within the tribe. Like all of the men have intimate relationships with all of the women. And so all of the kids that are birthed out of those relationships become the tribe's kids. So there's no one mom and dad that owns this child and is responsible for raising this child. It becomes the community's responsibility to raise this child.
Yeah, I can imagine some audience say, yeah, aesthetically this part to that kind of personality.
I think we're talking, as we do, we're kind of projecting into the future and also taking some very extreme or idealistic mental experiments with this. But I think practically there is a lot to take from this in terms of just how we can have happy and healthy, sustainable relationships and how to deal with the coming changes in technology. And also, one thing I think about, if we really take advantage of the new technology and transfer our consciousness, and we have less attachment to this physical body, we might have said this in the past episode, the sexual drive does fuel a lot of our reasons for doing things in our social structures. If we take that out, we may lose the motivation. We may lose a source of power unless we have tapped into a higher kind of source of energy and motivation, which I would describe as raising consciousness. Yeah. So it's kind of like a deadline. Like raising consciousness is not just because I want to be nice. It's actually something that human beings may need to do in order to function in whatever future we experience. And I find that kind of interesting. So whether you think that sexless robot communal relationships is what's going to happen or not, I think there's a lot to be gained. Also, just like being more precise about the concepts of relationship and sex or reproduction. We often lump them together, as you said, to kind of beautify it or to make ourselves a little more comfortable in conversation. Like I saw the nature documentary, and they sent a lizard out, and they said the lizard is looking for love. And I thought, do you really need to describe it? It's looking to reproduce. So if we're comfortable with that, then we can be a little bit more precise about, as you said, what is really meaningful in a relationship. And yes, sex is a part of that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah, if there are some people in maybe in an aging population category who is experiencing with this the decrease of the hormonal cocktail stream, if you think that you are losing something, then I would suggest try to change your perspective in trying to see what you are gaining, what not losing. But I think we may find some real gems in the relationship, which will strengthen not only those two couple, but inspire us, then affect in a positive way a lot of other people around you. So that's what I would prefer. That's what I would suggest, especially to those who are experiencing that in their lives now.
I think that's a really helpful piece of info. I from slightly same thing but a different perspective, I think the idea that we're not losing something as we age actually helps younger people reduce anxiety that I have to live my life right now, that all the good stuff is happening right now and I need to rush because later I'm going to lose something. I think it's a nice way to look at aging, that there are many new things to come.
Yeah. And I think that kind of what we've been talking about so far is that a lot of these changes that are coming, or a lot of these changes that are very possible, they seem on the surface to be very scary, very extreme. But it seems like as much as they can produce challenges, they can also produce new possibilities that we've yet to experience.
So a little more hopeful view of the future. Great. Well, I think we can rest assured that this has been an interesting topic to dig into, and there's probably a lot more to say about it. So please let us know your thoughts, your reactions, questions, and post it in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know what else you'd like to dig into in our next conversations. Thank you, everybody.
Welcome to the future place, where you see the human race. Past and present here collide. Join the journey, come inside.